And last but not least, John Molvar. First round of applause for Barbara. She gets tons of applause anyway every day. So, John is a 1983 graduate of the University of Lowell. Assists UMass Lowell's distance runners. Molvar previously served as the head coach of the cross-country and track and field programs at Gordon College. During his 4 years at Gordon, John led the Fighting Scots programs to new heights. The men's cross-country program was a regular among the top 20 schools at the NCAA New England Regional Championships and finished as the Commonwealth Athletic Conference runner-ups 4 straight years. John was named the CAC Men's Cross-Country Coach of the Year all 4 years, that's 2006 through 2009, and earned Women's Coach of the Year honors in 2008. During the track and field season, the Fighting Scots won 3 straight CAC women's titles. John steadily increased Gordon's NCAA Division III New England Championship qualifiers each year, including 12 individual women and men and 8 relay teams during the 2008-2009 indoor and outdoor seasons. He was a member of University of Lowell's cross-country, track and field programs from 1981 to 83 and graduated with a degree in chemical engineering in 1983. He was also a regular on the road race circuit for more than 20 years. Previously, John was a standout runner at Melrose High School, from where he graduated in 1979. Now you start dating yourself with those dates there. He also spent 22 years as a nuclear engineer at the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard before retiring in 2006. Big round of applause for John Molvar, please. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, speaking on basic distance training, John Molvar.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming. I'm a coach at UMass Lowell, as he stated, and although we're competing at a national level there, the same basic principles of training apply to whether you're just getting ready for your fitness test, or you're just running for fun, or you're training for a marathon. It's all the same basic principles, so I'll go over those. The first thing I want to cover is why should you run? And basically, running has tremendous benefits for you. It's the best aerobic exercise by far. It has tremendous cardiovascular benefits, and it's good for your general well-being. Some of those things including that running improves cardiovascular fitness faster than swimming, biking, rowing, or any other type of cardiovascular exercise you're going to do. Runners can reach their full potential on far less time than someone can in swimming, for example. World-class runners train much lower time rate than a swimmer, for example. It also results in quicker fat loss than any other aerobic activity, which is a lot of people like that benefit from running also. As you improve your cardiovascular fitness, you also have more energy for your daily tasks every day. So that's another benefit. It can also make you sharper mentally. I've been coaching, many years at the high school and college levels, and the ADs always like the distance, cross-country, and track programs because we always have the highest grade point average. And part of that may be related to, running helping make you more mentally sharp, so that's another benefit. It also increases bone density, especially in your lower body, not really in your upper body, but that's one of the advantages of running over walking. Walking will give you a good general fitness, but it doesn't build the bone density that you need to ward off arthritis and brittle bones as you get older, so that's another advantage. One thing to keep in mind, too, is running. A lot of you, if you just start out, the first few weeks is very hard. I think you've all experienced that. And many people give up after that, or they don't stick with it, and they don't get the full benefits, because after the first few weeks, that's when you start experiencing the real benefits. You start getting what's called the runner's high. in which you get your body flooded with endorphins, and it gives you basically a good glowing feeling for several hours after you run. So if you run in the morning and then you come into work, nothing your boss or coworkers do to you are going to upset you for the first couple hours. So I don't know if some of you have experienced that, but that's what it does for you. Also, there's been studies that have shown that it actually increases your serotonin levels, which has the same effect that antidepressants have on people. So, and there's been a few studies that have actually shown that running is as good as taking antidepressants to ward off depression. So you have a bunch of reasons other than just trying to pass a fitness test to run, and that's why I think you should get out and run every day. Now for the training philosophy, how to go about it. And like I said, this applies to whether you're a world-class athlete or someone who's just trying to get fit. The key to any training is to build your aerobic endurance. Now, how do you do that? Basically, you get out and run at a speed that makes your heart rate between 120 and 175. That's called the aerobic zone. So that's the zone you want to train in. If you take nothing else from this lecture, that's what you should remember. That's what you should be training at that level. Now, you can go slower than 120, but if you do, that's just going to give you general fitness and fat burning, which is fine, but it's not going to prepare you to run a race or pass a fitness test. So you got to go at a higher effort than 120 heart rate. You got to get up into the aerobic zone. By the way, you all have the handout, so if anything I cover you don't pick up on, you can read it later, and as he mentioned earlier, in the second hour we're going to take questions, so I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have on any of this. Now, what about going faster than a heart rate of 175? That puts you into what's called the anaerobic zone, and the anaerobic zone gives you quick, temporary results. So you can get sharp really quick in a few weeks of that, but you don't really get any long-term benefit from that. So I'll talk more about that later. So the bulk of your training year-round, you want to be in the aerobic zone. You can use a heart monitor, or you can check your pulse for 10 seconds after you finish your run and multiply it by 6 to make sure you're in the zone. What most experienced runners do is after a while they don't really need that stuff. They learn to go by feel, so they know when they're going faster than jogging, and they know when they're going into the anaerobic zone. So one thing you want to do is periodize your training, and there's basically 3 phases. There's the base aerobic phase, which is by far the most important phase. That's where you're building up your endurance. The second phase, if you're getting ready for a race or a fitness test, would be called the anaerobic interval phase. And the third phase is the shortest phase. It's the tapering phase, where you're resting up to get sharp and fresh for your race that you're aiming for or your fitness test. So I'll start with the base aerobic phase. And like I said, this is by far the most important phase. This type of training gives you the long-term improvement, opens up your capillary beds, increases your heart size, improves your stroke volume, all that stuff, and those are long-term benefits. So most of the year you want to be doing that, and like I said, that's running at a rate that your heart rate's going to be between 120 and 175. Now obviously for each person that's going to be a different speed, so if you're training with other people, you want to find people that are at the same level you're at. A thing you can do during the base aerobic phase to speed up your improvement is to do what's called threshold runs, where you're running closer to the high end of the aerobic zone. And if you do those 1 or 2 times a week, you're going to improve much faster than if you just do everything in the middle or low range. So once or twice a week, you want to try to push it so that you get up to a heart rate to 160 to 174. And there's 3 different types of threshold runs. There's a continuous run where you basically, for example, go out and run 3 miles at a steady pace that's at a high aerobic pace, but not going anaerobic like a race. Think of it as like a 3/4 race effort. That's one way. Another way is you can break it up and do 3 by 1 mile, 2 by 2 miles, or something like that with a short recovery in between. That's another way. Another one, and we like to use these at the college level, is progression runs, where you might do 3 miles or 5 miles, and you run each mile slightly faster than the other, so that by the last mile is your fastest mile, but you're still pushing up against the anaerobic threshold, but not going over that point. Another thing you want to do in the aerobic phase is to do what's called a, quote, long run once a week. The long run really helps you for long-term improvement. And what is the long run? It's basically 20 to 25% of what your weekly mileage is. So if you're running, say, 20 miles a week, your long run should be 4 or 5 miles a day, 4 or 5 miles that one day a week. If you're running 80 miles a week or more and you're a serious runner or training for a marathon, that long run should be 15 to 17 miles a week. All right, so that's the base phase, and by the way, that's the most important phase. Now, if you're trying to see how fast you can go, be it in a fitness test or you're training for an actual race, then you want to do the next phase also, which is called the anaerobic interval phase. That's where you basically do interval training. How long does this phase last? It lasts 2 to 8 weeks. And why such a range? It all depends on your aerobic base. If you have a huge aerobic base, say you've been running 80 miles a week year-round, you can do 4 to 8 weeks of this stuff to prepare you for the race. If you've been just running for a few weeks to get ready for a local fun run, you only want to do 2 weeks of this. The reason is this is where most people make their biggest mistakes in training. They either do too much of this type of training per week, or they carry it on too long, or they push too hard during it. All those are common mistakes during this. And you don't want to make those mistakes because you can go past your peak and burn out, and you can lose a lot of the benefits you got. So the thing about interval training is always be cautious with it. Don't carry it on for too long. Don't do it too intensely, and don't do it too many times a week. The ideal is usually 1 or 2 times a week to do interval training. So what's an example of interval training? Say you're training for the fitness test and you want to run 12 minutes for 1.5 miles. You could do 3 by half mile in 4 minutes, which is at that race pace, and you could do a slow jog in between it. And that will get your body used to the lactic acid you'll get during the test, and will allow you to run better. If you're a more serious runner who's training for a 5K or a 10K, you might do one of our favorite workouts is we'll do 3 by 2K at race pace, and then we'll do a 3 or 4 minute easy jog in between. If you're getting ready for a marathon, you're going to want to do longer stuff like 3 by 4 miles or 6 by 2 miles. The basic point is to cross that threshold into the anaerobic zone, get yourself in an oxygen debt, and you'll know you're there because it's an uncomfortable feeling. You start feeling the burning in your muscles. You just get enough to get in debt and then stop. You always want to be in control in one of these workouts too. Say you've decided you're going to do 6 repeats on the laps on a track with a short jog in between, and say you're going to aim for 2 minutes for each one. If you start finding on the 4th one you're falling way off pace, this is the most important thing: stop. End the workout there and come back next week and do it again when you're feeling better or you're in better shape, or you may have to readjust your goals based on your current fitness. But don't blindly set a number of intervals. I'm going to do this number of intervals and come hell or high water and then fall apart in it because you're going to start digging a hole. So that's the interval training. The last phase is the tapering phase. This is when you rest up to get yourself fresh. You've completed the training and you're getting ready for your race, or it could be a fitness test. This phase is anywhere from 3 to 14 days. Again, it's based on what your current fitness is. If you've been just running for a few weeks and you're just doing your local fun run, and or you're getting ready for a fitness test that you haven't really done a lot of preparation for it, you only want to taper like 3 days, because you're going to start losing fitness fast if you don't if you take longer than that. If you're a more serious runner training for a 5K or a 10K and you want to see how good you can get, this is more like 10 days. You do your last really hard workout 10 days before. Then you start backing off your distance the last 10 days. You might do 1 or 2 short, fast interval workouts, and then the last couple of days, very short. If you're getting ready for a marathon, the taper is 2 full weeks. The first week, you'll cut back your weekly mileage 20 to 30%, and then the second week, 40 to 50%, so that you're fresh for the race. So, okay. Now, here's one of the more tricky questions. How much should you run every day? And the answer is there's really no one answer. There's too many variables depending on your current fitness level, your durability, what your goals are. You got a question, Mick? Oh, okay. What your goals are, all those type of things. Some people find that they can't handle a lot of mileage because they start getting injured. Other people can handle a lot more. One thing to take from this is that if you're serious about getting aerobically fit or getting ready for competition, basically the more aerobic miles you run, now aerobic miles are miles that you're running between heart rate 120 and 175, the more you run total for an entire year, the better you're going to be. It's really that simple. But of course you have to factor that in with your time commitments and everything else. So for some people, what if you're a beginner who's never run before, or you haven't worked out in a very long time? You got to start out very easy. One good technique to use, and I think Mick's helped people with this, is you can start out with 10 minutes a day. And if you can't run 10 minutes straight, that's no problem. You just walk and jog till you feel okay. And then you do that for a few weeks till you get to the point where you can run the whole 10 minutes without stopping. Then you progress from there. So wherever you are in your fitness level, you basically start where you are. You can't rush this type of thing and gradually progress. And for beginners, it's very important that you kind of tough out those first 2 weeks where you don't feel good most days. And then you start getting from the benefits, and it gets easier, and you feel a lot better. So that's one of the things you want to do. You can also supplement your training, and this isn't for everyone, but you can actually work on your basic speed to improve how fast you are. Say you want to play other recreational sports and you want to increase your basic speed, that would be someone who would want to do this. Or if you're a serious runner, seeing how good you can get in the middle distances, or you're running for your local school, college, or whatever, you want to work on basic speed. One of the big things that coaches and runners all confuse is they confuse anaerobic interval training, which I just talked about, with working on basic speed. Anaerobic interval training won't help your basic speed. It won't make you any faster. What it does is make you tolerate lactic acid so you can run better in a race. To work in basic speed, you have to do short intervals with long recoveries so that you're fully recovered, so that you're running fast enough when you do them, so that it's actually improving your basic speed. So an example of that would be you could do 3 or 4 or 5 repeat 40s down the track, and you take a full 3 minutes recovery so that you don't have any lactic acid in your legs or body before you start the next one. Another common one that a lot of college and high schools use is 5 to 10 by 100 on the track, where you do 100 at like 90 to 95% effort, then you walk back. If you're really fit, say you're a runner who's running 80 miles a week and you're in tremendous shape, you're going to get bored doing the walk back. You're going to recover much quicker so you can jog back and then start the next one. If you're not super fit, you want to walk back. The key is have no lactic acid before you start the next one, so you're running fast enough so you're actually improving your speed. Another one, and this is actually Mick Grant's favorite, is doing like 5 to 8 by 200, with either walk 100 or jog 200, jog 100 back. Another one you can do, if you like hills, you can find a short hill that's maybe 40 or 50 meters, and you can do like 5 repeats up the hill. Even though you're not going as fast, the power you're generating from that will actually help your basic speed. So you can run up the hill and then jog down. Another one that you like to see, you see in movies a lot, and it will help your basic speed. You can do stadium steps, where you do a sprint up a stadium step and walk down. All those things will help your basic speed, and you can just use what you want. Now, if you're just going to run a local 5K fun run, or just getting ready for the fitness test, or just general health, you don't really need to work on your basic speed. But I wanted to cover that for the people who do want to actually improve their speed. Lastly, is race tactics. How do you properly run a race, either in a 5 or 10K, or you're trying to pass the fitness test? Remember, this is one of the most important things. The best way to run a race is to run even pace, meaning run each part of it the same pace the whole way, or run slightly negative, which you actually grow a little bit faster each part of the race. What do most people do? They actually do just the opposite. They go out way too hard, they get carried into the momentum, they're worrying about what everyone else is doing, and then they start slowing down the rest of the race and dying, and it results in a slow overall time. So say you want to run the fitness test in 15 minutes, you want to get out there and run each half mile in exactly 5 minutes. That's the best way to go about it. If you want to run a marathon and you want to break 3 hours, you want to hit every mile in 6:50. So that's basically it. Like he announced earlier, we'll cover any questions in the second part of it. Thank you.